Hello and welcome to Hope Channel Kenya, where we bring light to the family. This is a brand new show called The First Aider, and I will be your host, Sally Oriko. And this show is all about everything health and everything emergency and everything that you need to know about being a first aider and what you need to do in times of crisis when no one else is available to give first aid to a victim. So with me, I will be having Mwaniki Mogaka, who is a volunteer first aider with St. John Ambulance Kenya, and also a training manager at Private Security Training Academy. Hi Mwaniki, hello, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Yes, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Now, Mwaniki is a trained first aider, and he will be here to guide us and give us information on everything first aid, yes? So let us begin. So what exactly is a first aider, or who is a first aider?
Hello, viewer. Sally, when we are talking about first aid, is that initial assistance you can give to someone who has either fallen suddenly ill or injured using any available material you may be having at that time, because you may not be walking around with a first aid kit. But at least later on in the show, we are going to realize, as a certified first aider, the key items in the first aid kit that you should be having with you all the time.
So first aid is basically that first service, if I can call it that you give someone who's suddenly fallen sick or injured himself or herself.
Sure. Even the name itself, first aid, it's the first intervention, the initial intervention that you're going to give to the two types of casualties of people that you have identified. One who has been injured, or one who has suddenly fallen ill.
Okay. So what does one person need to do to become a first aider? If there's someone out there who is interested in being a first aider, what do they need to do?
For one to be a first aider, actually you have to be a certified first aider by training. So you have to be trained as a first aider, and we have specific training for first aiders being conducted countrywide, and there are specific training centers that you can be able to access these kind of skills. We at Private Security Training Academy, we do the training of first aid. We have training at St. John Ambulance Kenya. We have training at Red Cross. And we have many other emergency training institutions that offer this particular training. But the key institutions that I've mentioned, there is St. John Ambulance Kenya, which is actually an emergency response institution, and Red Cross.
Do you have to be a specific age, or what specifications does one need to have or to be a first aider?
Emergency doesn't really identify itself with age. So everybody is eligible to be trained as a first aider, as long as you'll be able to comprehend the skills of first aid. Actually, I'm a volunteer at St. John Ambulance Kenya, and we have various levels of training for the badgers. Those are the ones from the age of around 7 going all the way to 12. We have from age 12 to around 16, and we have from age 18 going onwards. So everybody who has the capability of learning the skill of first aid is eligible to be trained as a first aider.
Now, you've mentioned that different ages that basically everybody who really is interested in being a first aider can become. Does it mean that also the training is different depending on the age of that particular person?
It's tailor-made to fit the age, each age set, actually. Like age 7 to 12, the way we deliver the skills is one meant to make them understand, with a lot of interesting activities as we build up that first aid skill. So, of course, the training is tailor-made to a specific age of that particular group. But the contents of the training remain the same, because first aid is first aid.
How long does the training take?
The training is usually meant for, a first aider is supposed to be trained for 1 week. That is 5 weekdays, Monday to Friday. Yes. So it's a 1 week training. 30, in fact, according to NITA, which is the National Industrial Training Authority, an authorizing body in this country, gives the guidelines that a qualified first aider should be trained for 30 contact hours.
So by 30 hours,
that is 5 days, 6 hours a day.
You are now a certified first aider.
Yes, you are certified first aider, but the certificate also is valid for 1 year, renewable on an annual basis.
Okay, so now you've received your certification, and how would you identify a first aider in times of crisis? So, for example, you're at an event or something, and then someone injures themselves. How would someone who's not a first aider be able to identify a first aider amongst a group of people? Is there a way that you can identify who a first aider is?
Emergencies, accidents, or incidents happen. And usually in these particular incidents, the crowds are unmanageable. You may not be able to tell who is a first aider, who is not a first aider. During our trainings, we always insist and give this information to the first aiders. Anytime you approach an incident, the first thing you need to do is identify yourself. I'm Mwaniki Mogaka, a qualified first aider from St. John Ambulance, Kenya. So with that introduction, the crowd will give you time. Number 2, when you enter an incident, and for example, if you come across an accident, and I come as Mwaniki, enter that particular incident, having put on my gloves, don't you think you will give me ample time to be able to? With that, you could have even been able to manage this particular crowd because of the way, the gadgets that you have put on. Number 3, specific ambulance service providers and their volunteers and the first aiders have specific uniforms in regard to those particular institutions. For example, where I'm a volunteer in St. John Ambulance, we use this particular beep. This is for the emergency or the first responders. Anytime there's an incident, I'm always with this particular kit of mine. It's with me in my car. Anytime I come across an incident, I put it on and hit the road to that particular scene. And with this particular kit on, you will be able definitely to identify that this must be a first aider. We need to support him. We need to give him time to be able to give the initial assistance. Yes.
Do other institutions also have the same kind of vest like you're wearing to identify them as first aiders?
Institutions are, yes, they have specific kits. For example, E+, or Red Cross Kenya for that matter, they have a red beep having written E+. And many other institutions have their specific, actually it's written first aider. Anytime most of these, even organizations, have first aiders. And these first aiders are always advised to be having their own beep that they should be wearing within the premises. Anytime you enter any supermarket, shopping malls nowadays, you're able to identify a fire marshal and a first aider, courtesy of the beep they are wearing. And even the shop attendants nowadays, they put on the beeps and they have even written some words they're trying to tell you the kind of help that they can give you.
They can offer.
Yes.
So you've mentioned that being a first aider, there's a uniform that you wear that identifies you as a first aider, and there's tools that you use when you're at the scene attending to a victim or a casualty. What are these tools that you use?
At first, even when we are trying to explain to the viewer what first aid is, we clearly stated that first aid is that initial assistance that you're going to give to a person who has suddenly fallen ill or been injured using any available material. But as a first aider, you clearly now understand, or you can suspect the kind of incidents that you may come across, so you need to be prepared. The first thing that you need to have as a first aider is a first aid kit. And this particular first aid kit has specific contents in the first aid kit. And on the same time, we have 3 types of first aid kits, but the difference is in terms of size. The content remains the same. Now, the number of each particular supplies in that particular kit is what changes with the size of the kit. We have the small kit. These are usually meant to be in our motor vehicles and our cars and all that, so that they are portable, easy to carry along. We have the medium first aid kit and the large first aid kit. Now this goes in relation to the number of the people in an organization, the number of the area of coverage of that particular emergency point where the first aid kit is placed. Talking about the first aid kit, there are some specific contents which should be in the first aid kit. You don't need to miss a cotton wool in the first aid kit. You need gloves in the first aid kit. You need a mouth shield in the first aid kit. You're going to use this particular mouth shield in case you come across casualties who are not breathing and you want to give the kiss of life. This is what you're going to use. You also have the scissors in the first aid kit. We have dressings in the first aid kit of different sizes depending on the size of the injury, the location of the injury. We also need to have bandages. Sometimes you may end up tying slings. We have what we call an arm sling and an elevation sling when you're going to deal with the issues of fractures to the upper limbs. Yes, all those particular basic contents should be in the first aid kit. And all these 3 types of first aid kits have the same contents, but the number of each particular supply is what is different.
Okay. Usually most people would identify or would compare a first aider to a medical official. What's the difference between a first aider and a certified medical official, maybe a doctor or a nurse? Is there any difference, or is there any similarities between the two?
Yeah, there is a difference and there is a similarity because at the same time, both, if I can start with the similarity, both of them are there to help save a life. But the difference is at what level that, or this, or up to what point that each of these can be able to save a life. A first aider, when we're talking about a first aider, actually a first aider is the doctor, if I can use that, of 3 key aspects in a casualty. The airway, breathing, and circulation. You're going to offer your first aid intervention to ensure that the airway, the breathing, and circulation of the casualty is sustained during that period of that particular incident. Number 2, as a first aider, you are not going to offer any medication at any point in your intervention of offering the first aid assistance. So basically you're coming in to assist this particular casualty, to sustain this particular casualty, to give hope to this casualty so that they can be able to receive the medical attention. Remember, in our definition of first aid, we said initial assistance given to a casualty or somebody who has suddenly fallen ill using any available materials before seeking medical attention. Yes.
So at what point, if you can break it down, there's a casualty, we have a victim or a casualty at this particular moment. You as a first aider, what's the first thing, or what is that initial first assistance that you should do? And at what point do you stop to let the medical official take over from there?
If I get you well, Sally, you're not talking about managing an incident where we're having casualties. And it's possible that you can have different types of casualties in one incident. Now, for example, the first thing that you ought to do as a first aider anytime you enter an incident is to do what we call assessment. What are you assessing for in that particular incident? You're assessing for any dangers to you first as a first aider. You really ought to be selfish. Sorry to use that. You ought to be selfish as a first aider. You ought to be safe first before you'll be in a position to give the first aid. Number two, once you have been able to assess for the dangers, ensure that you make that area safe. The dangers that you identified, make sure that you clear those dangers for you, for the bystanders, and ultimately the casualty. Then, in the same process, you should be able to assess the state of the casualties. Because the casualties will not be in the same state. There are those who need your immediate intervention. There are those who can wait longer. There are those that you can even assign to the bystanders to give them the assistance. So you also need to assess. And when you're going to assess, you're going to use the priorities of life. The ABCs of life. The airway, the breathing, the circulation. Any casualty having challenges or issues to the airway should be your priority. Followed by the casualty having issues with their breathing system. And finally, circulation. And remember, blood circulates in the body. And now when we're talking about airway, do you know your airway?
No, we breathe through our nose and our mouth.
Nose, yes. Mouth, all the way to the lungs. Now that is the airway. So if there is any challenge to the casualty along the airway, that is a casualty that you ought to attend to first. For example, if you go into an accident scene and find 3 casualties, let's say we had a saloon car, the family was leaving home to work in the morning, then unfortunately they got involved in an accident. The car rolled 3 times and landed in a ditch. We have the dad, we're assuming the dad was the driver, is leaning on the steering wheel, having no apparent injuries, no bleeding from anywhere, but is unconscious and leaning on the steering wheel. The mother, who is the co-driver, because of that rolling and the dust and everything, she's really struggling to breathe. And their only child, who is around 8 years old, who was seated at the back seat, had not buckled on the safety belt. The kid was thrown to the driver's seat where the handbrake is, and the kid had a sharp cut, and the kid is bleeding. Who will you deal with first? Let's assume you are the first person on the scene and nobody else. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. You know how Nairobians wake up very early in the morning to go to work.
Yes.
Now here the priorities of life come into place. Remember we have said the airway, breathing and circulation. In most cases, maybe even the viewer at home, they may have rushed to that kid who is crying and bleeding because you can see the blood coming out.
Yeah.
And the mother there struggling to breathe. But the dad who is leaning on the steering wheel, you don't even know what is happening. The principles of first aid will dictate that the father should be the priority. Then followed by the mother, then followed by the kid. Following the principles, the priorities of life. Airway, breathing, and circulation. The father is unconscious. What usually happens to you and me when you are unconscious? Your body muscles will relax. Remember, the tongue is part of the body muscle. So if it relaxes, it will fall back and close the airway. So ultimately, the dad may not be breathing, or he's even doing his last breaths. So you need to intervene, open that airway so that you can enable the father to breathe. Remember, the mother is struggling to breathe, so at least she is breathing. The kid is crying, so he has a little more time to survive. Then in that order. But if there is a crowd on the scene, you can assign. That is the work you can do as a first aid. As you are dealing with the key or the priority casualty, you assign as you give instructions to the bystanders to assist. Yes.
So now we've learned so much so far about what it is we need to do as a first aider, what the initial steps we take as a first aider, and all these tools and available things that we need. Now, is there, when you go into a building, there's usually places that first aid kits and fire extinguishers are placed. Is there importance of that? And what can you tell us, our viewers out there, and those people who are not first aiders, what do they need to look out for when it comes to emergency, and how can they conduct themselves when an emergency occurs?
Thank you, Sally. We need, as Kenyans and the viewers, of course, at home, we need to be safety conscious. All the time, anywhere, anytime, safety should be paramount in all the activities that we're doing. So anytime you get into an office building, you get into a church, you get into a shopping mall, when it clicks into your mind, safety, what are the first things that should come into your mind? As you enter into a building, does it even click in your mind, where is the emergency exit? That should be the first thing you should be able to take note of. Number two, most of the buildings as you enter, you'll come across a safety notice board where they have clearly given you the guidelines, even the evacuation map of that particular building. You need to take note of that. And at that particular point, they will tell you even where the first aid points are, where the fire points. The fire points is where you're going to find almost all the types of fire extinguishers that we have, depending on the kind of fire emergency that you may encounter. And on that particular same notice board, the safety notice board, you'll be able to find the contacts of a first aider on duty, a fire marshal on duty, safety numbers. They are always clearly indicated on those particular safety notice boards. If we could take a minute to be aware, it's what we call in security and safety matters, situational awareness. Understand where you are. Be able to know, just in case of anything, what next? Yes.
So where in a building, can you tell us where these points are? Like if someone, I'm sure several of us have not really taken the time to look at this notice, safety notice boards. So where should we go, or where are the points where the first aid kit is, just in case an emergency occurs and you're able to help, and where the exit points should be located and all that? Where do we find these things?
As you enter most of these buildings, the first aid points, the fire points are specific as per the building. And in most cases, they are clearly indicated. The main entrance, it will give you direction of where the first aid point is, where the fire point is, where even the first aid room is. Number two, first aid points are located not one first aid point, maybe unless it's a small building or a small office. In offices, we even have first aid points in every department where they have their first aiders. In every, some offices have floors. So each floor should have a first aid point. And a first aid point should be a place where everybody is easily visible. As you enter the building, you should be able to notice those safety points. Actually, let's call them the safety points. You should be able to notice those safety points. They are along the main corridors. And if they are not along the main corridors, there are signs clearly showing you where a first aid point is, where a fire exit is, and where you can even find the first aid room, for that matter.
Okay.
Yes.
So each building should have a first aid point and a first aid. Where is there a place, a specific place, like maybe in a drawer, or like, you know, the way if you go to a building, the fire extinguisher is clearly mounted on the wall. Is there a place where there's a first aid kit that is specifically placed?
They should be mounted on the wall.
Just like the way a fire extinguisher is placed.
That's why we are calling it a first aid point, where you can go and access those particular emergency services. But at the same time, most organizations, most churches, or most offices should have first aid rooms where extreme cases can be attended to. If you have casualties, where they can be stabilized as we are waiting for the arrival of the ambulance. So a first aid room is a bit different from the first aid point, but at the same time the first aid room can be the first aid point. Yes, so the first aid points, the first aid kits can also be mounted on visible areas for all the employees and the staff and the visitors to those particular buildings to be able to see. And at the same time, that is why we insisted, as you enter any building, take note of the safety board, because it's clear the first point that you'll come into contact as you enter. It's giving you information about that particular building, that particular mall, and of critical essence, the evacuation procedures there and the map showing you where you're supposed to go to in case of this and all that. And even the people that you can contact and their contact numbers, just in case there's an emergency.
Speaking of contact numbers, now is there like a general contact number that a majority of the general public can access or can call, and they'll know whether it's the police or the fire brigade or even St. John Ambulance can be there at that point to assist in whatever emergency has occurred?
Thank you. We are talking of several emergencies. So we as Kenyans, we ought to have all the contact numbers of the emergency service providers. We have the ambulance services. I'm going to mention a few and then give you the contact numbers. We have the Kenya Police. We have Kenya Power. Sometimes we have emergencies. We also need to call them. We have the security firms providing response services, because many Kenyans, I know, they have taken alarms in their homes. So anytime there is an intruder or something, they press those alarms. So they need to have the contact numbers. Sanaka East Africa, there is SGA, there is G4S, name them. You need to have those particular contact numbers. You also need to have, most of critical importance, now we are talking about first aid, you need to have the ambulance service providers numbers. Talk of St. John Ambulance Kenya, which actually in most cases offers free rescue services to accidents happening to the public. You need to have the contact number. Maybe I can give the St. John Ambulance number, which is 07 22 225 285. And also we have the E+, which is a Red Cross, which is 07 00 395 395. Maybe I can repeat those contacts. The Safaricom line is 0722 225 285. We also have E+, which is a Red Cross, 0700 395 395, and 0738 395 395. It's key, it's critical. And even to mention furthermore, E+ have entered into a contract with the NHIF. That is the government. They're actually offering the rescue services. So you need to have those particular contacts, because it's now even key in the provision of the health services by the government of the day.
Yes, it's good to note to our viewers that each region, each county has an emergency numbers, and they're easily accessible online. You can go to the Red Cross website, or you can go to the St. John Ambulance website, or you can just Google emergency numbers in Kenya to find out which emergency number you can call for your specific region or wherever it is you are. Now, when someone calls this emergency numbers, how long do they have to wait? Or is it emergency? How long do they have to wait for the specific person, whether it's the police or the ambulance or first aid, to be on site?
It depends with the availability of these services, because we know that we don't have enough supply of the emergency services in this country. But even before that, you need to know how to make an emergency phone call, so that you give the right information, you even give the right direction and the location, so that these particular service providers can be able to access or even reach to that particular scene on time. So how do you make an emergency phone call? What are the key things that you ought to identify in that particular emergency phone call? I can summarize it in 4 W's, a C and a T.
4 W's, C and T.
Yes. So the first W is, who are you? Tell us your name, give us your contact number. As much as we are calling a mobile number, it doesn't mean we are able to see that particular number. It's a switchboard. Sometimes the network can be a problem, or you may run out of credit. We need to call you back. Where are you? The second W. Be very specific. Give us clear landmarks of where you are. Don't tell us, I'm calling from Thika Road. Thika Road starts all the way from Muthaiga, goes all the way heading to Garissa Road. So be very specific. I'm calling from Thika Road, Safari Park Hotel. I'm calling from Thika Road, TRM. I'm calling from Moi Avenue Primary School. Remember where Moi Avenue starts from?
Yeah.
All the way.
Yes.
What has happened? Describe that particular incident.
That's
The
the third
number
W.
of casualties, the state of the casualties. So if you give that description, even the person receiving the call, she will be able to know exactly the kind of precise help to send to you. They need to send to you an ALS ambulance, advanced life support, or a BLS, basic life support. So that if you have critical casualties, you really need the advanced life support, which is a mini hospital, which can sustain the lives of those particular casualties. And what kind of help, the last W, what kind of help do you want? Do you want an ambulance, or do you want tips on how you can manage that particular casualty? The C, confirm. Make sure you confirm the entire message that you are conveying to the receiver on the other end. And lastly, now the question that you asked, time. Ask them how long are they going to take to arrive on the scene. Chances are they may not be having any ambulance on site. They're relying on an ambulance which has already taken a casualty or a patient to hospital. It's being rerouted to your location. So find out how long you're going to take to arrive on the scene. And finally, that will even help you, because if you have decided to help a casualty, you're not supposed to abandon a casualty. The moment you have started giving first aid, give first aid consistently until emergency help arrives on the scene. Yes.
Now, you'd mentioned about crowd control. There's people, because we each have different personalities and temperaments. How would you, as a first aider, control a crowd that is unmanageable, if I can put it like that? And perhaps you're the only first aider on site, and there's people who are, for whatever reason, trying to interfere with you administering first aid to a casualty or a victim.
Thank you. There are many ways that you may try to manage this particular crowd on these incidents. The first thing we said, and I still repeat it here, is introduce yourself. Mwaniki Mogaka, qualified first aider from St. John Ambulance. May I help? You are seeking their permission, and at the same time you are seeking permission of the casualty, whether the casualty is responding or not. Number two, consistently or always as a first aider, you need to be walking around with gloves and a mouth shield. Actually, those are the only things that you need to manage the ABCs of the casualty. Put on your gloves, then find your way to the scene. The crowd will definitely give you way. Daktari amefika, so they'll give you the way. Number three, assign these people duties. They should be the ones who are loudest, should be the ones controlling the crowd, forming that human shield, so that you can even get that time to deal with the casualty. And another last thing that I can mention is, as you are attending to the casualty, consistently speak out what you're doing. I'm checking your head for any injuries. There isn't any. You are communicating to the crowd what you're doing. They even give you that time to be able to do it, because they can see that you know what you're doing. At the same time, you are building trust between you and the casualty, and you and even the relatives or the bystanders and the crowd. And with that, they will definitely allow you to carry out the first aid.
First aid. Has there been any incidences where there's been, how many first aiders should be at a scene, or do people work together? Like, are you supposed to, the police work in twos, and as they are always together, the fire brigade have a whole team. Is it possible for first aiders to also operate in the same way, or you need the training? Once you get the training, it's just advisable that you work by yourself, or should you wait for another first aider to be at the scene?
It's not really possible for the first aiders to work together, but at the same time, if I can speak as a volunteer of St. John Ambulance Kenya, we ensure that we train as many volunteers as possible, widespread across the city, the country, because we are all over the country. And the aim of the St. John Volunteer Wing is to have a first aider in every homestead. So, when we're talking about a first aider, we don't know at what point an accident may occur. So we always ensure that you have the skills at any point where you are. So there is no specific number of first aiders to attend to a particular scene unless we have been informed. Now we are officially sending the first aiders from our St. John branches to that particular location. Yes.
Now, this year being an election year, as we wind up, what are the key things that our viewers must or should be note of? As you as a first aider, what can you tell us that we need to do or we need to prepare for in case of an emergency?
We are hoping that we won't be having any political violence, and that is our hope. And the way things are going, it seems like we'll be having a smooth election going forward. But just in case something happens, we need to be prepared. The first thing, like if I can even mention Private Security Training Academy, we have an election preparedness, kind of a training awareness, where you are clearly given the tips on how ready you should be. For example, what are you supposed to be having in your home, in your car? What kind of contacts are you supposed to be having? So the first thing is you need to have all the necessary emergency contact numbers that you need. You need to be having first aid kits. Actually, what we can even say, let's call it, you need to have a go bag. A go bag, this is a particular kit, just in case something happens. This is a kit which will see you through 72 hours. How many days are those?
3 days.
3 days. Those are 3 days. So what should be in this go bag? One, you should be having your essential documents. Your ID, your medical cards, medical history, name them, the medications that you're using now. Number two, you should be having food to eat, but which is not supposed to be cooked, the snacks. Or if you have to cook it, it's something can take a few minutes to cook. Stories like rice, spaghetti. It's not about the stories of unga and all that, cooking ugali. No. You need to have the first aid kit in your go bag. You need to be able to carry some drinking water in your go bag. You should be having a family photo. I don't know whether that makes sense.
You think to identify in case someone gets lost?
Yes, in case someone gets lost. You actually need to even have a map of the area you are. You need to be able to know the exits. Some of us get into a homestead using one entrance, and that's the same route we use day in, day out. Your car should be fully serviced. You should be having 2 spare wheels. You should be having a towing rope for the car. Look at those key things that make your life move and ensure that at least you are prepared well. Stock enough food. You should be able to have cash in lesser denominations. This is all the time you're keeping 1,000 notes in your wallet. That day you're even going to buy 1 apple for 1,000. Nobody will give you change. So you should be able to have those kind of loose change. At the same time, when it comes to power, pay your bills early enough. Prepaid subscribers. It's not the day you're going to try to load the units. That particular period, you should have like units you use for a month, you load 3 months. So you should be prepared. Look at your life. Look at those critical things that you do in your life. Prepare in that particular line. Because election preparedness, awareness, training is client or individual specific. Because the way I lead my life and the key things in my life may not necessarily be the same, but there are those ones which cut across the board. Yes.
Well, thank you, Moniki, for joining us and giving us information about what it is to be a first aider. Well, thank you, viewer, for tuning into Hope Channel. We do hope that you have been inspired by this information, and do stay tuned for consistent episodes where we will get to show you exactly what it is you need to do in case of an emergency. I have been your host, Sally Oriko. Until next time, be safe.